mom's handwriting.
This is before she did any of the UI text or anything.
Right, and it was before we decided that all the moms were going to actually be written by moms and all that kind of stuff.
Integrity in moms.
And so we had the answering machine note in the foyer, and there what the line, what's the actual line that's there? It's like
Neighborhood.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So the line on the thing is like Daniel from the old neighborhood called, call him back. And we gave the text to Emily, and she wrote it out longhand and gave it back to us. And then I looked at it, and I realized that she had inserted a U into the word neighborhood
Because it's what you do.
because of
Canada.
being Canadian. And so to fix that bug, instead of removing the U, I said, bug fix.
Todd's band lost their singer.
Oh, shit.
Todd said he sucked. Lonnie said he got sick of Todd's shit. And he was
Oh man, this thing.
So two things. One, mom's
Sorry
Canadian.
about that.
Yay.
Two, mom didn't start out Canadian. The reason that mom is Canadian is because Kate Craig and Emily Carroll are Canadian, and early on in the development of the game, Emily did mom's handwriting.
This is before she did any of the UI text or anything.
Right, and it was before we decided that all the moms were going to actually be written by moms and all that kind of stuff.
Integrity in moms.
And so we had the answering machine note in the foyer, and there the line, what's the actual line that's there? It's like
Neighborhood.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So the line on the thing is like Daniel from the old neighborhood called, call him back. And we gave the text to Emily, and she wrote it out longhand and gave it back to us. And then I looked at it, I realized that she had inserted a U into the word neighborhood
Because it's what you do.
because of
Canada.
being Canadian. And so to fix that bug, instead of removing the U, I said, bug fixed, mom is now Canadian.
Okay. Steve, a KD intervention.
So there's this little scrap of paper that's hidden under this bedside table, and you start to read it, and then Katie makes you stop reading it. And it was this thing where it's an exception to the interactive expectations that you have. Like, it's one place, I guess the one place where we really impinge on your ability as a player to do what you want, and Katie intervenes basically, and it was something that I thought was an interesting little one-off way of emphasizing the difference between the player and the character that they're playing as. And to you as a player, the note's just a note, but a reminder that, like, Sam is Katie's sister, and Katie wouldn't want to read this thing, and she's not going to keep doing it, even if you want her to.
That sounds very nice. I'm gonna try that. The first time was in my room in the middle of the night. Okay. Okay. That's what I was expecting to happen.
You know, there was kind of this intellectual, cross-cultural, like pen pal thing that happened before the internet. You know, we used to write letters back and forth to each other about our ideas and about how we wanted to change things. And so a bunch of these women that I mentioned came up with this idea of Riot Girl, of being a punk rocker that was also an in-your-face feminist.
Sounds very interesting. order this month, 2 cases of brandy, 2 cases of rum, 1 barrel whiskey. Governor remains very pleased with enforcement in Boone County. Believe that this arrangement shall hold for some time via March 23rd. Another tape. Not interested.
There was a little bit of concern on my part before any of this got started that you never know how much liberty you're going to be given and how much over direction you're going to get, because somebody hears it like a specific way, and if you deviate from that at all, you're just going to keep doing the line over and over and over again, like 50 times until it's right. So I really wasn't sure what to expect, but even on the first day getting in there and being able to go through a few of the lines and just give them what came to mind, and seeing how closely I think everyone was on the page about it. So the direction was always really positive, and it was always kind of coming from either additional information that changed the context of what I was reading, or a certain change in the phrasing or the way something is being, a pause here, or maybe move it to here, or instead of emphasizing this word, try this one instead. So you end up with a lot of different takes that really give it a very different feeling, depending on which one you go for.
Very interesting.
Putback is the feature that I'm happiest with in the game. It actually came about as sort of a little bit of an accident. Playtesters had told us they didn't want to feel like some kind of horrible person rummaging around this house and tossing everything on the floor. There wasn't really any other option initially. That's all you could do, was sort of try and lob things back into the place. So, I had done some code before for placing turrets and things in other games where it, will arbitrarily orient an object to be perpendicular to surface and all that sort of stuff. I told Steve that, we'd have a lot of edge cases with that and it would take some time to implement, and temporarily I would just give him the ability to put objects that these things would kind of stick to in the game, and we tried that, and it worked so well that we decided to keep that, and that's where Putback came from.
Very nice, very nice. Damn, I wish we could run in this game, because it's taken so long. Okay.
Fanzines, that's one of the things that we started doing right away, was doing these Riot Grrrl fanzines, and everyone would contribute and write, an article for it, and then we'd compile it and make these Riot Grrrl fanzines, and we would mail them out to people. All this is so funny to talk about it before the internet, but we used the mail, and people would write. We had a P.O. box, and we started getting letters because people would read in someone else's fanzine, there's this Riot Grrrl thing that started happening, right? And it just, it was the most incredible thing. It just snowballed. Girls wanted to be a part of it immediately across the country. Right, so from the time we started Heavens to Betsy in 1991, I think it was only a year later, right? So 1 year of Riot Grrrl meetings and these letters happening and these fanzines happening. Well, a year later, we left on the Riot Grrrl tour, the Heavens to Betsy Bratmobile Riot Grrrl tour, from Olympia to DC. Well, for some reason, it took us like almost 5 weeks to get there on this tour. And we ended up staying in D.C. another something like 5 weeks before the Riot Girl convention that happened. So that all of this, all of these fanzines, all these girls across the country started getting interested in Riot Girl, and the press just went bananas. I mean, the press attention was off the hook. New York Times, USA Today, all these journalists wanted information and wanted to interview all of us. And it was crazy. So by the time we got to the Riot Girl convention, suddenly we were truly part of a movement.
Very interesting.
The music for Gone Home was mainly composed over 2 separate periods, roughly a year apart. A version of Part 1 of the game had to be ready by October 2012 for submission to the 2013 Independent Games Festival, so I did all the Part 1 audio logs primarily that September. The following summer I did another round of logs for the second half of the game, as well as some Part 1 revisions in the ambient exploration tracks. One really nice side effect of the long gap between composition sessions, as well as the structure of writing music that is very literally accompanying a story, was that I ended up hitting on pretty different ideas and approaches over time as I got further along in Sam's story. The original sketches I did had mainly electric piano sounds, which are warmer and more naturalistic than synthesizers and other electronics instruments. As Sam and Lonnie's story developed more, though, I started to bring in acoustic guitar as well. It seemed like an appropriate way for the music to build up some more familiar, natural elements, somewhat echoing Sam coming into her own. Eventually, it became a really tonal element of the score. After that emerged, I started to more carefully control the instrumentation for the various main categories of log subject matter, including Sam's self-reflections, Sam and Lonnie, Sam and her parents, and even Sam and Daniel. Some of those have their own melodies and themes as well. That wasn't really a grand plan from the start, and I don't expect everyone to really notice it, but it became one of my favorite things about working on this score.
All of the sliding doors that you see in the game are actually, from a code perspective, drawers. When I made a thing that could slide along a track like that, for the purpose of making drawers, Steve took it and, as designers are wont to do, used it for his own purposes and came up with sliding doors in our game.
Interesting that part about sliding doors. Nothing.
Writing Sam was a unique challenge, just in the sense of, on the one hand, it was very much from my personal experience because it's about being a teenager and my memories from that time, as an individual, but also who Sam was and what her experience was. Came about as a result of kind of problem solving that we were doing, that Carla and I were doing, just figuring out what the story and what the conflict in the story was going to be. So, by the time we figured out this was all going to take place in one house, and the conflict was going to be between the members of this family, and it had to be kind of irreconcilable differences that would cause serious drama between the members of this family, we started thinking, what form could that take? Could it be that the teenager of the family falls in love with somebody that they're not supposed to and the parents don't agree? And what is the contemporary version